Good evening, everyone. Welcome to NV's webinar series under Ek Bharat Shresth Bharat initiative and also One Earth initiative. So today we have with us Dr. S.N. Prasad, who is an expert in ecology and conservation of bamboo resources. So he's a farmer from Sakan. So yesterday we have also celebrated World Environment Day. So this year the World Environment Day theme is One Earth. So we have only one Earth to protect. So we have so many galaxies, so many planets, but we have only one Earth where the people can live in harmony. So the sustainable development only can support this Earth. If we are trying to destroy that, then we will have a very difficult time in coming future. The way the resources usage and also the unplanned developmental activities are threatening the Earth resources. So we have to focus on sustainable development by judicious use of natural resources. So with this brief introduction, I will try to introduce the speaker, and also I will try to explain what is the Ek Bharat initiative. So Ek Bharat Shresth Bharat initiative of Prime Minister Narendra Modi ji. It is an initiative to exchange the culture, diversity, and also the environment and sustainable practices among the various people across the various states and union territories. And under this initiative, we have also paid, the Karnataka state has been paid with Uttarakhand to understand their sustainable practices and also the environmental concerns. So under this initiative, we are conducting series of webinar. This month, we have Dr. S.N. Prasad from Sakan. So Dr. S.N. Prasad, who is a former principal scientist from Salim Ali Center for Ornithology as well as Natural History, and also he's a secretary of OSGEO India. OSGEO stands for Open Source Geospatial Foundation. So Open Source Geospatial Foundation mainly focus on the promoting the open source softwares in India. So this is a non-profit organization. Under this OSGEO, they have also various activities to train the students as well as the administration as well as the regulatory agencies to use the free and open source software available. So he's instrumental in preparing the wetland atlas of Kerala and also conservation of wetlands of India and policy guidelines. So he's also a executive member for OSGEO, and he has published 50 plus research paper in peer-reviewed international journal, and he has carried out societal relevance research as well as research projects. He has contributed significantly in identifying the ecological sensitive areas of the Western Ghats, the chairmanship of great Madhav Gadgil sir. So with this brief introduction, I welcome to this webinar series under Ek Bharat initiative. So welcome to you, sir.
Thank you, Dr. Bharat, for this very nice and warm introduction. Hello, can you hear?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I can hear you, sir.
Okay. Thank you, Dr. Bharat, for the introduction. Thank you, Dr. Bharat, for the introduction. Very nice introduction. I'm very happy to be giving this talk on bamboo. And Dr. Ramchandra also I thank for remembering the work that this work was basically done at the Indian Institute of Science. That time it was Center for Theoretical Studies. Later on it became Center for Ecological Sciences. I remember when this work was being done, we were actually directly involved with the user agencies. In this case, Karnataka State Council for Science and Technology, which formed just then actually, this is way back in 1975. And that time the state government was seized of this problem of conservation of bamboo. Basically, they were not getting, the users, ultimate users were not getting, the basket weavers were not getting enough bamboo for their day-to-day requirements. So it's an excellent industry academia kind of interaction, which resulted in this work, which has been mainstay for the policy implementation by the Forest Department, not only in Karnataka but elsewhere also. So I will go into the I will not go into full details of the entire thing because it will be more than the required time, 40-45 minutes time. I will give you the brief overview, plus some of the things that advances that have happened in on technology front were not considered at the time, but with the current advances in the technology, especially of synoptic viewing of the resources, estimation of the resources, it's relevant to look at what kind of things are possible or feasible for the conservation, for describing the ecology and conservation of important resources such as bamboo. Now, bamboos, all of you would know that they are the woody grasses. Normally, grasses are not woody; they are just uh, grasses. I mean, herbs kind of a thing. But the distribution-wise, they are in the tropics, mostly in tropics, uh, and form a significant component of natural vegetation. It's part and parcel of the natural vegetation. Any of the biomes that you see, and they one good thing about this is bamboo is that it occurs in a variety of rainfall, soil factors, and with variety of associations of plants. It's amazing, quite amazing to see the range of plant associates that they are associated with, and soil conditions and so on. I basically worked in two areas. One is in, of course, Karnataka, and little bit later on in Himalayas as well. But the Karnataka study was the most significant study in terms of the depth and in terms of the time duration that I spent on that. So we will briefly give an overview of this. There are in India about 75 species, and distributed through the forests, which are basically controlled by monsoon. And the deciduous forests, the two species, following two species, Dendrocalamus strictus and Bambusa arundinacea. This name Bambusa arundinacea has been changed into Bambusa bambus. Uh, So we also will refer to the mapping of the bamboos using the multi-source remote sensing data. Primarily, I had taken this. This is the latest available that at least I could lay my hands on. This is a very extensive work that has been done on this. Uh, So this is the distribution, current distribution, known distribution of the bamboo in on the globe, and as you can see it here, from no bamboo to very high density of bamboo. You can see here from white color to the dark green, and this is how bamboo is distributed. And you can see the three primary regions. The one is China, which is about estimated to be about uh, roughly 21%, 20%, and India is about 18% odd percent, and in South America again to about 23%. So primarily the tropical area, and Africa also you have got very small quantities though. So this is the kind of global distribution of bamboo, and there are a large number of maybe about 1,000 species or so. But primarily these are there. But of course, they are growing in all kinds of conditions, and temperate also conditions also are there. As I was saying that in Himalayas also you get that to up to certain altitude. Uh, this is the kind of distribution that we have, and global distribution of bamboo. And if you look at the actual extent of forest bamboo area in throughout the world, you see these are the countries that you have, and the you have two estimates. One is the estimate given in this. I will give the reference at the end. Uh, this study using the remote sensing tools, they have actually contributed to the estimation of the area, bamboo forest area, and the various statistics. I mean, traditional way of collecting data by various government agencies, non-government agencies that you have in this. So, as you can see here, you can see this bamboo forest area as recorded by this remote sensing tools estimates about roughly 60%, whereas through statistical conventional things is about 45%. So which is a good thing, because this is for these countries, and this in this condition it is more or less same in this group of countries, starting from Bangladesh, Cambodia, China, India, Indonesia, all these countries. If you look at this up to Vietnam, it looks like 17,370, and this is multiplied by 10 raised to 3 hectares, about 1,000 hectares. So you have to multiply by 1,000, so then you will get this. So there is not much difference between this group of countries and this in this group of studies. There is not much difference between the remote sensing estimates and the classical estimates of the conventional agencies. Whereas in Central and this is Asia, and in Central and South America there is quite a lot difference, about 15% difference in this. So you can see this use of this technology in estimating these unreachable areas. So therefore, it makes sense for the countries to adopt and use this technology, remote sensing technology, quite extensively. And in fact, in India, if you go into that, there is not really. It's almost identical. The statistical estimates that are given, as well as the independent study. This is quite nice to know that. See, you have 5,591, whereas in this statistical means that the conventional government agencies put forth is about 5,476. So this is a really good kind of a thing. Similarly, this is the case with China also. So in this group of companies, in Asia, basically there is a close correspondence between the study using these remote sensing tools and the classical statistical means. Whereas here in the Africa and Central and South America, there is quite a bit of differences there. So it only goes to prove that how good the remote sensing technology with all its high resolution data and the tools that are available makes things easier for us. Oh, sorry. There is some change in order, because at the last minute some problem happened. This should come actually. Okay, this is coming to the Indian scenario itself. You have this. I'm sorry, this slide is slightly it's not convenient, because there are so many states are there. It could have been a graphical representation, would have been ideal, but anyway, it doesn't matter. But of these number of states, of all the states that we have, the major contributors for the bamboo density, this is from Forest Survey of India, the state and union territory-wise bamboo bearing areas in the country, and Arunachal Pradesh, which is in this 16,000 odd square kilometers, and then in Chhattisgarh about 11,000 odd square kilometers, and again in Madhya Pradesh and Maharashtra and Orissa. These 6 states make up more than 50% of the bamboo area in the country. So you can imagine, and of course other northeastern states also come close to that, such as Manipur and Mizoram, etc. Also they come. Karnataka also is very good. So something like close to 8,000 odd square kilometers of area is occupied by bamboo. So this kind of estimates is routinely done by the Forest Survey of India in their biennial or triennial, I don't know now. At least it used to be a biennial assessment. So reasonably good estimates of the bamboo area in the country we have. Next we will see the occurrence of bamboo in major vegetation types. If you see this, so we have a whole lot of vegetation types in India, from evergreen forest to Himalayan semi-evergreen forests. All kinds of things are there, and then you have the rainfall, corresponding rainfall, and the kind of species that are there. Now, I will not go into the details of this, but I think at your leisure, when your recording is there, then you can have this is a good source, a summarized source. You can actually look into that. Unfortunately, I cannot scroll down because there is quite a lot in below thing also, but you can once it is there on your YouTube, you can see it on your screen. Only thing is that some name changes are there. This Bambusa arundinacea is no more Bambusa arundinacea, it is Bambusa bambus. So see, in all major vegetation types, it occurs from you can see in this table from variety of evergreen, semi-evergreen to evergreen forests. This species Melocana bambusa is really very good pulp bamboo. It's actually a lot of good pulp can be made paper pulp, and it's very high quality pulp actually. So in fact, much of the industry, paper industry, they depend on Northeast for their supply of bamboo. Now this is again. I mean, I just divided into small segments so that you can have a closer look at this. These are the 5-6 moist deciduous to semi-evergreen to evergreen forests that you have this kind of species distribution. See the rainfall regimes, and then the distribution of various species. So that gives some kind of idea as to what kind of rainfall regimes they would be preferring in this. Similarly, the moist deciduous forest, dry deciduous forest, tropical hill forests, and so on. So these various species are there, and this would be very useful for you to have a good resource material. And again in Andamans and so on. So this is how the species distribution is there. I would like to say this in this Oxygenanthera species is something which is very nice. We have in Karnataka also. It's very solid bamboo actually. It's preferred by these basket weavers as compared to other hollow bamboos. Okay, this is how the main species Bambusa bambus, that is Bambusa arundinacea, looks like that. I would like to dwell a minute or two on this. It's a really thorny species, and if anyone tries to go near and try to get handle on that, he had it. Actually, the thorns are so impenetrable with any predators approaching these bamboo for new shoots. The bamboo shoots are highly edible. By animals like langurs and wild pigs and all kinds of animals actually. So they love to eat this because very highly nutritious ones. To protect these young shoots from being preyed upon, bamboo has developed its own defense mechanism. It has a lot of thorny cover. So this thorny cover really prevents animals and herbivores from approaching this. But what happened is that when the paper mills and the ones who are exploiting the bamboo, they thought that by actually having this kind of things, bamboo is getting crooked, all kinds of shapes it is taking place, and so the management of the paper mills and paper industry, they thought that they should clear all these things to facilitate more growth. They thought that they're facilitating the growth by actually removing this. So in our study in Karnataka showed that by removing it, actually you are harming the bamboo growth, because once this protective cover is gone, the animals were able to freely go and take away the emerging shoots. So there was, it was scientifically proven, statistically proven that a clump which is cleaned off these thorns has much lower chance of the new shoots coming up. Okay, now a little bit of terminology, as you might know, that the whole thing is a clump, and the individual things that you see is the culm, culm, cull. So it's actually the bamboo. The biology of bamboo is so peculiar that actually the stem is underground. What you see is branches here. So here you think it is a stem. It is not stem. It's a grass. But here the underground thing, the rhizome. The rhizome is the stem actually. From there the shoots come up. So to protect this ones, this species has gotten this mechanism whereby the animals find it very difficult to approach it. So this is one of the main species that I worked on. We'll go into the details a little later. This is yet another species called Dendrocalamus strictus. We'll go back to the previous one. This species occurs in wet areas, relatively wet areas, in moist deciduous to higher rainfall areas, about anything above 1,200, 1,500 kind of millimeters of rainfall areas it occurs. Whereas Dendrocalamus strictus, which is occurring very extensively, because it can withstand all kinds of conditions, very dry habitats to poor soil conditions and so on. So this is by far the largest, largest distribution, widest distribution that it has got in India, and people do depend on this for their livelihoods in terms of basket weaving, etc. So again, this species has again another peculiarity here. If the animals are sort of disturbing it, then because the soil is also getting compacted because of the animals' movement and all that, it has got a protective mechanism wherein the shoots never come out. They go inside, and then they take all kinds of shapes. You will be really amazed to see the kind of shapes it takes place. So what they call forest management calls crooked culms. So the bamboo is not crooked, but because of the pressures that we humans impose on them, that they get sort of distorted. I mean, the morphology gets changed, and then I unfortunately don't have the slide to show you that. But it's a common occurrence that whenever there is a huge anthropogenic pressure, the culms are not straight, and they're not nice, but they're sort of impacted by this. Okay. Now, coming to the classification of the density of the bamboo in various forests. This is a Forest Survey of India classification. Pure bamboo is the one which is having more than 200 clumps per hectare, and for there is also bamboos which are there. The Melocana bamboo is the Melocana thing I showed you in the earlier. That is a running bamboo. It's called that is non-clump forming bamboo. It has got more than 12,000 clumps. If it is there, then it is a dense pure bamboo area. Very dense area is 151 to 200 clumps, and clumps are similarly same thing. And dense is like this 101, and so on. Sparse is 1 to 20 clumps. So you have this kind of a nice good classification, so you do not enter into kind of any kind of a dilemma as to what is to be called pure bamboo, dense bamboo, or very dense, and so on. So this kind of classification is very, very useful for any future work that people may be planning. And regeneration crop is the one which you will get once the bamboo flowers, once in whatever flowering cycle that has got. As you know, bamboo flowers once in its lifetime and dies. Not all bamboos, but most bamboos, they do that. We will come to that later on. So this regeneration crop is extremely vulnerable for grazing and fire. Again, our study in Karnataka had shown that. Now, we will come very quickly to the things that the study has given us. And though it is done quite a long time ago, even now these conclusions are relevant because nothing much has changed drastically. So I would like to share this. It's always there is a mismatch between the demand and harvest of the bamboo. So there is therefore, consequently, there is a lot of overexploitation that has been going on in different parts of the state, and many areas which harbored very, very good bamboo stocks, they do not contain any more bamboo. And we have many examples that in many parts of the country, starting from northeast, northern India. In fact, I was in Arunachal Pradesh some 2-3 years ago. They said that panda, you probably know panda, red panda, which is one of the endangered animal species. So the areas in approaching the Selakui, that is not Selakui, sorry, Sela Pass. Sela Pass in Arunachal Pradesh. It used to be very good bamboo area. Now it doesn't have any bamboo. So red pandas are not to be seen there. Uh, so we also reviewed on various propagation methods because this work of ours was very practical in the sense how do you cultivate bamboo, how do you propagate. Of course, now a lot of methods have come for propagation of bamboo. There is a Bamboo Society of India which is taking quite a bit of lead in the propagation and utilization of the bamboo. We will not go into the details. And interestingly, propagation by means of seed is by far the most successful method. And this bamboo thing, if you had seen, it's like rice actually. It's like ordinary rice kind of a thing. And this is the viability of the seed is very, very, very low. In the sense, immediately if it is not utilized, the viability is lost in that. So for the management of the bamboo, the spacing, that artificial plantations that the forest departments and paper mills and other interested people, they adopt is roughly 2 meter by 2 meter space. They actually plant each bamboo clump. And paper mills, in their anxiety to grow more bamboo, they would actually resort to application of fertilizers, weeding, and intercropping. All kinds of species they do that. Now we had also done a very detailed economic analysis of rising bamboo plantations to show that it is economically viable to grow bamboo as a crop. And since then, it has been shown very nicely all over the country, all over the world, in fact. So it's a viable crop when you are talking about switching from annual crops to this. And in fact, many places in the country, they have actually started doing this thing. Now, before we go into I think the slides got slightly sort of jumbled up for some reason. Very briefly, just 2 slides, but very significant one I thought I should show you is that discuss you is about the applications, because this technology is as I said in the beginning, is the one of the most robust and cost-effective and time-saving kind of tools that we should use. Apart from remote sensing and GIS, we should use this, and field work we should use this quite extensively. And in fact, Forest Survey of India uses this thing. I'll just show you just the sensors that are used for estimating this. So this is a study published in I think in 2018 using a giant panda. Some time ago I should show this giant panda, as you probably know, in China, occurring at it exclusively depends on almost about 90-95% of the time the food diet consists only bamboo. So when the bamboo flowered in China, there was a huge crash in the panda populations. That is, I'm talking about the 70s, 80s, and since then they have recovered it. And then it has become a priority to estimate the bamboo areas for animals like giant panda is, in fact, the World Wildlife Fund symbol is panda, if you know that. So we will go into not too many details, but significant results of that. I'll just show that. Oh, sorry, I think I missed this. Yeah. So this is the sensors. It actually from different sensors they had actually figured it out the kind of data that it can each sensor can collect, and then these various methods are artificial neural network, maximum likelihood classification, etc. maxent. So these and then the accuracy of classification of the producer accuracy and user accuracy, PA and UA accuracy, and the overall accuracy of classification of this forest. And this kind of a thing was very nicely done for all kinds of sensors, from Landsat TM to hyperspectral data to thematic mapper, enhanced thematic mapper, Aster, MODIS, MSS data, then Hyperion digital photograph, MODIS, Landsat TM MODIS combinations, OLI, then Spot 5, and this other things, that is infrared imaging kind of thing also. So you can see this, the accuracy of bamboo, overall bamboo accuracy, classification of the accuracy is quite high with Spot as well as this world viewer too. So that is almost coming to about 95% kind of a thing, and the rest of them, they're all different. This is bamboo accuracy. Overall accuracy is, again, you can see here, it can range from a low of 60% from airborne hyperspectral image to a very high of something like 93% in Landsat TM MODIS combination. So that kind of gives us some idea as to the potentiality of the using various sensors for classification of the bamboo areas. Now I'll go back to the other things, the findings of the so this is a summary of the things. So I'm not going to the details of this, but we say that the majority of the species are various growth forms are there. Some of them are like trees, some of them are like shrubs, some of them are like climbers. So this kind of analysis has been done for this, and you will be finding about majority of them are like a tree growth like form, which is about 45%. About 19% they are like climbers, the climbing bamboo, and then you have so these kind of growth forms are actually hypothesized to be the adaptation to the limiting factors in various habitat types. Now we had done some studies in 81 different forest ranges of Karnataka. Now this 81 is not longer, maybe it is double now, the number, because the forest ranges size keeps changing. So anyway, in all the major zones of Karnataka, North Canara, Crestline, Malnad, Mysore Plateau, and Eastern Ghats. This is actually from rainfall gradient. If you see this, North Canara is quite heavy rainfall. Crestline is the peak, like Shimoga and Agumbe and all those areas. And Malnad, like Shimoga and all that, they come little less rainfall. And Mysore Plateau is little rain shadow areas. And again, Eastern Ghats, again, very scanty rainfall. So various rainfall gradients were covered in this, and we found out that within North Canara and the crestline, Agumbe kind of environment, you get Bambusa arundinacea, the thorny bamboo that I had shown in the photograph just in case. In Malnad and Mysore Plateau, both species of bamboo occur, while in the Eastern Ghats, the mainly populations of Dendrocalamus strictus appear. Now we found out in all these zones the densities of bamboo differ quite a bit due to biotic factors as well as due to inherent growth factors, differences in edaphic factors and so on. And the kind of estimates that I had shown in the Forest Survey of India classification, we shows that the densities range from about 50 to 200 clumps per hectare. Anyway, since I will not go into the too much details in this, we found out that dispersion of the clumps of bamboo in space is aggregated. That is, wherever there is a lot of aggregation, that this clump distribution is highly aggregated. And when we found out, we also did a lot of studies on bamboo flowering. In fact, some of the significant findings of the study is that it fixed that Dendrocalamus strictus, which is most common species in the entire country, it is very sporadically flowering. That is, it's not a mass flowering in the sense you cannot see it in a vast area like in Bambusa arundinacea, where it occurs in really large tracts. And also the flowering cycles. We feel it. I will not go into the details of that, but roughly the Bambusa arundinacea is about 45 to 50 years. Uh, and Dendrocalamus strictus, it's about a little less than 50 years, about 32 years or so. So we had actually predicted that this flower, based on our studies, we predicted way back in 1980 that flowering is going to occur in Karnataka for Bambusa arundinacea in around 2005 and that period. So in fact, it was found to be true. Uh, Whereas in this one, the 59 flowering of the grand flowering of Bambusa arundinacea occurred in large parts of peninsular India and parts of Madhya Pradesh. Uh, so also it was supposed to be occurring in a kind of a wave fashion in the Bambusa arundinacea flowering in different tracts. So we will not go into the details. The seed production is estimates are given, and it is really amazing to see this. If you ever get a chance, you must. I urge you to look at the bamboo seeds when it is flowering. The whole forest floor is covered with thick produce of this bamboo seeds, and in fact, it is hypothesized that once the bamboo flowering occurs, there is a famine because the rat population increases so much because of the availability of food. Once the seeding is over, flowering is over, there is nothing to eat, and therefore they eat the crops, and therefore the crops get farmers will not be able to get much yield out of this. So the famines occur. So this is the kind of story that is there in the country. So we had undertaken much micro level studies on the seed fractions and the kind of predation that occurs in the seeds, and also the regeneration from the seeds. What we call reproductive effort of arundinacea is very high in this 0.2 to 0.36, and it's very extraordinary to see that out of these seeds, we estimated that out of 4 million seeds, if it produces a bamboo clump, only one succeeds in becoming an adult bamboo plant. So you can imagine the kind of effort that bamboo puts in producing such enormous amount of seeds. And because of this kind of effort, reproductive effort, that bamboo has, it dies. After the flowering, it dies. Simply it dies. It just unlike other flowering plants, mango or any other fruit, any other things, they survive from one year to another year. Though they may produce less quantity, but they will not die. This is unique. Something like this is there in analogous thing in animals kingdom also. This salmon fish it also does the same thing, that it reproduces in one big bang fashion and then it dies. So now we are also shown that the dormancy of the seeds is actually very low. In the sense, the viability is low. Dormancy is not there at all. Instantly, you take a bunch of bamboo seeds which are flowered and then produced, and then you put it for germination. It does immediately germinate, like our rice crop and things like that. But they therefore do not retain their viability, and that fact makes it difficult for the forest department to grow bamboo from the seeds. So now we will not go into the details of this, the biomass distribution in different parts of the bamboo plant. It's only noteworthy to see that as much as 35% of the biomass is from the rhizome. That's very substantial part of the biomass is put in the rhizome part of it, which is actually the underground stem. And aerial shoots is also have some, but compared to the other ordinary flowering trees, this ratio is something which is significant. Uh, we found out that nature of growth is exponential for strictus bamboo, strictus as well as for Bambusa arundinacea. Uh, Actually, historically, if you had seen these bamboo things, you will not believe it that they are like a huge trees kind of a thing. The diameter of each of the clump is so huge that you can end up with as many as 200 bamboos in a clump, which is unbelievable in the present day conditions. You will hardly get 30, 40, 50 kind of a thing. So those conditions are not there because of the changed environmental conditions and also the human pressures in terms of harvesting and so on. So this is shown here. Uh, so this the productivity of this bamboo is actually is very low. I mean, some of the areas is very low. Some it can go down to as much as low as zero point 0.8 tons per hectare. Uh, Now, other part of the bamboo, that is the seeds and the shoots, they're highly nutritious and they're consumed by a wide variety of animals. And human beings also, they actually eat quite substantial. And in fact, in China and Japan and all that, bamboo shoot, here also you can get in some of these restaurants in India. The bamboo shoot is a delicacy. So that is extensively used in Japan and in America. It's an industry actually. It's a for all the hotels and all that, bamboo shoots are very uh, good item to have that. And also for India, for the pulp and paper industry, the bamboo has been the mainstay of producing pulp because the cellulose fibers of bamboo have a very nice consistency, and the yield of cellulose is very high in this. So that makes it easy to separate cellulose from bamboo for making pulp to make paper. Now, it's a poor man's timber, as we know that in bamboo, in major parts of the country, even now, of course, in 50s, 60s, even 40s, and all that, bamboo houses used to be quite common actually. But even in rural areas, if nowadays you go to Northeast India or some other bamboo-rich areas, you will still see the bamboo is a major preferred kind of a housing material. And it also gets affected. The populations of bamboo get affected by extensive fires, forest fires, and cattle grazing. And the seedlings are actually affected much. In fact, they're quite nutritious, and the animals they consume as much as 95% of the regenerating bamboo. In contrast to this, in grazed localities, in ungrazed areas, it's as high as 95% survival, whereas in grazed areas, it's about just 10%. So therefore, you can imagine how forest grazing by cattle is, contributing to the loss of the regeneration of the forest, bamboo forests. So now, forest fires, on the other hand, they do not seem to be having much impact on the survival. It, of course, sort of decreases the growth, the quantum of growth of the seedlings because they die back. Once the fire runs through the forest, they die back, and then the next year they start from the scratch. So in the process, the survival, I mean, the growth rate is decreased, but no, they don't die immediately, like in grazing. The growth of seedlings similarly was higher in ungrazed localities, and this is kind of experiment where we had done statistical with statistical design, factorial design in the ground on the ground. We had done this and then shown that ungrazed localities, it is seedlings are much better, as shown earlier. Now, when it comes to sort of giving what kind of regimens should be there for harvesting of the bamboo, uh, fundamental difference is that between ordinary kind of vegetation and this is that since bamboo is continuously growing till flowering occurs, that is 45, 50 years, it keeps on growing. There is no stoppage of the growth. So in a sense, it is growing exponentially. The yield, therefore, to harvest it at the end of the lifespan, then you will get maximum amount of bamboo in this. Imagine that you have a fixed deposit in a bank and it is continuously growing. Uh, Obviously, if you don't touch it at the end of 20, 30, 40 years, it is much higher than when you are harvesting, when you are taking it at periodic intervals, say every 2 years, 3 years, if you are taking it, the growth is less. So that's the kind of difference it makes. Uh, so therefore, we suggested that for the management of the bamboo in Karnataka and elsewhere also, that you should make a balance between the supply and maximization of the supply, fluctuation of supply and maximization of supply. That means if there is a oversupply, then you should reduce it quite drastically, and then if there is undersupply, then you should increase it in a fashion that is not going to reduce the growth of the bamboo crop. So this uh, this another major thing is that, as is shown in the picture, the protective role of the thorns of the bamboo, and in the photograph I shown that the forest department and the management of the pulp mills, they thought that by having this kind of a obstructive comes, then I mean the thorny kind of growth is going to hinder this, and then they actually remove it. And then we shown that the survival of the new shoot continues to be very, very minimal, as much as 2.5 times slow. If you had left the clump intact without disturbing it, then there is the chance of the culm, the new shoot growing up is about double, more than double than what you do with the management tax. In fact, this management suggestion was taken up seriously by the forest department. In fact, in the paper mills also they had started implementing that. And then we found out that this exploitation of the bamboo occurs in many localities, the state, and within Karnataka, we found out that there is a serious gap between the supply and demand, or the growth, the demand and the growth, and exploitation. So we have a deficit. At the time, we estimated about 22,000 so of bamboo. So in fact, that's the reason why Karnataka, the pulp industry was going all the way to northeast to get its bamboo supplies. So we estimated this the demand for the resources has rapidly crossed the available annual harvest, and the exploitation is going on very seriously, and it is actually uh, uh, is not going to help the bamboo in its distribution and growth. Yeah, I think I had shown this earlier. Uh, so this is the kind of a thing that occurs in terms of the density. Uh, this is number of clumps per hectare on the y-axis, and you have bamboo populations. So you have in different forested areas. We had actually seen this and how it sort of impacted by the grazing and no grazing protected areas. This is how the changes in bamboo populations occur in protected versus unprotected areas. Yeah, coming to the flowering again, we had extensively researched on the available information, and to determine whether this species, Dendrocalamus strictus, which is widely distributed all over the country, including Karnataka, the cycle varies from about 25 to 32 years, and these are the individual areas where it we gotten the data information, and Bhadravati in mid Karnataka, Mysore, Bangalore, and other areas. From various flowering cycles, we had gotten this information. Uh, So we also found out the historical flowering from various areas in the country, and faded it out for different regions. And from 1928 to, in fact, it is going to the last century itself, I mean, 20th, 19th century itself. And we found out that the cycle actually is coming to about 45 for Bambusa arundinacea. All other species in different areas, it differs actually. So the annual yield is of the bamboo species varies from something like point less than a ton to about 5 tons per hectare per year in Indonesia. This is all estimates by given by Japanese to our own estimates that we have seen. So accordingly, the management has to take care of their supplies situation for their mills. Yeah, I think I will go back to my concluding slide where I tried to show that the kind of things that are needed. Sorry for that. Yeah. So further steps in conservation would require, I would say, participatory management of bamboo stocks is required because the rural populations and the people who are living with the bamboo, they know better how to manage, how to harvest, and how to enhance the stocks. So unless this kind of participatory management is there, it's going to be very tough based on our experiences in Karnataka, elsewhere also. And there is also widespread awareness building and incentivizing the cultivation is needed. Uh, because if you give enough awareness about multiplication of the bamboo and so on, and also giving incentives, people do that. I have seen this in Andhra Pradesh, in Maharashtra, elsewhere also. Many places actually they grow this. I think farmers they are incentivized, then they grow it, and it's very good for the soil. And in climate change, in fact, one another point is that the climate change regimes in this kind of conditions, it's shown that bamboo has because of the rapid growth and all that, the sequestration of carbon is going to be very good, very high in this. So and apart from the soil binding and soil erosion, prevention of soil erosion and so on, and for therefore the climate change scenarios also, this is one species that is very heavily advocated, and one should use this. And in community participation, if it is added to this, then there is nothing like that. Uh, so this is what I have to say, and and I'm sorry for the jumping of the slides, but so then I thank Dr. Ramchandra and Bharat for inviting me, for giving me this talk for the NVIS. And NVIS centers have a great role, I would say, that in terms of systematically documenting this. Anybody who is plant oriented kind of NVIS, if it is there, it is very much essential. Using these tools that I had briefly described, one should use this judiciously and in a very extensive way. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir. We have some questions also. So there is
Yeah.
a question from Manasvi Kiran. Sir, is bamboo plantation is susceptible to insects?
Yes, but bamboo, I must say that it is one of the hardiest species. We had actually conducted this kind of studies, whether bamboos are susceptible to this. At the young stage, when there is shoots are coming up in the monsoon season, we found out for Dendrocalamus strictus, mostly for Dendrocalamus strictus, there is a it's a some kind of a larvae. We could not identify the species. It's a caterpillar, obviously, and some butterflies. So that quite extensively damages that, but it's not so much as compared to the cattle or even langurs eating away these things. So in terms of the leaves disease and all that, there are some rusty spots and all that there. But by and large, the disease part of bamboo is very minimal, and unlike other crops, fruit crops and things like that. So it's very hardy species. Uh, so there are some diseases, but you don't need to worry about that.
Okay.
That's fine.
Okay. There is another question. Is bamboo can be grown in mined areas, the regions where mining happened?
Yes, very much. In fact, now that has been reclamation of the soils with bamboo and other fast-growing species is one of the preferred suggestions given to a variety of companies, actually mining companies. Of course, it depends on the kind of substratum that they are actually mining, and also you need to go in a ecological way. See, the thing is that if you cannot straight away introduce bamboo, you can introduce some other succession species. You need to take into account the succession, plant succession theory. So some of the species which can inhabit even the bare rock kind of situations, you must introduce this, and then later on some shrubs, and later on bamboo and things like that. So yes, it is definitely one of the preferred species for reclamation of mine spoils, for example. All kinds of things they do that. So they do that actually.
Okay. There is appreciation from Varun Sharma. Very informative presentation. Thank you.
Thank you.
So there is a question from Abhi. Sir, what would be the evolutionary reason that they flower only once in their lifetime?
Yeah, it's a good question. This is, in fact, this is the one question that evolutionary biology wise we are quite interested in that. And since I didn't have time for all that, in fact, our study had very extensively dealt with this kind of a thing. Why do they go like these things? So I briefly mentioned that there is two groups of organisms are there in terms of reproduction in some sense. One is big bangers. That is, they keep on growing almost till the end of their lifespan. I gave you two examples: salmon in the animal kingdom and in bamboo, and also this strobilanthus in Nilgiris, where it occurs, flowering occurs once in 12 years, and then it like bamboo, it just flowers in once in 12 years, and then huge tracts of strobilanthus. It's a shrub. Strobilanthus kurinji. They call that in kurinji in local language, and people have described a very nice sequence of events because of this flowering, mass flowering. Then honeybees, they produce honey, these strobilanthus, and then because of the honey thing, then the bears, the bears, the sloth bears and all that, they come, and then there, because of the bears coming in, and the humans interact, and there's a lot of mortality of the human beings. So you can imagine the connection between this. So there are any number of interesting kind of things, and because of, and evolutionarily speaking, this kind of segregation of the reproductive strategies. In fact, this is one of the favorite theme of Professor Madhav Gadgil. So we worked on this thing for this species, and then we showed that it makes sense for bamboo to flower like this as opposed to annual flowering, because it is gathering its all its energy, putting its all its energy in growing up, vegetatively growing up. instead of growing every now and then, which is not optimal for its survival and all that. When it produces in such a huge quantity, the seeds and all that, and then once the seed is produced and then they die, the fire hazard is quite tremendous. So the entire forest gets burnt. Actually, in fact, that fire damage is something I have not mentioned. But once the flowering occurs, there is a huge amount of fire in forest, and it opens up the forest actually. So which is again conducive for the growth of these young seedlings. So that's how you have huge tracts of bamboo in northeast where shifting cultivation is done, Arunachal Pradesh, Mizoram, and all those areas. And in these areas, in fact, in historically, if you look at these forest composition, there was not much bamboo. It was only evolutionarily speaking, because of this behavior of the bamboo. Bamboo was actually replacing major tree species. So this is the reproductive mechanism. I mean, this kind of a strategy that these plants, big bangers, do that. Whereas in evergreen species and so on, every year they flower and produce some seed and all that. But they are slow and steady. Whereas the bamboo is really a big bang, typically big banger kind of a thing. So it's a successional kind of a sense. This is not considered a mature kind of a thing. Bamboo is not evolutionarily speaking, successionally speaking, it's not a mature like other evergreen forest species and all that, because of this reproductive strategy. So this kind of a thing you must bear in mind.
Okay. So there is another question. Is dense plantation of bamboo is good, as Miyawaki method suggests close plantation?
Yeah, it is possible because yeah, if you're it depends on your management. For example, if you're interested in harvesting a lot of young shoots, for example, I'm just giving one example, then it makes sense to get, because people are not interested in the either columns or the leaves or anything. They are interested in the harvesting the young shoots. So it makes sense to grow those kind of things, dense plantations. Yes, it does. In fact, even now some of this forest, these plantations done by the paper mills and all that, they advocate closer spacing than what is done by forest department.
Okay. So there is a question, sir, what is the role of bamboo plantation to control global warming?
Yeah, in fact, this is the one that I was talking about it, and because it's a fast-growing species, and it is also fixing carbon quite effectively. It is one of the species advocated for mitigating global warming. But of course, you'll have to do it in large numbers. It can't be possible to go into, as you've seen in the distribution map that I had shown, it occurs only in the tropical areas. It doesn't go too much into the temperate areas. So therefore, its role is there, but not that much as one would imagine it to be.
Yeah. Okay. There is another question. Bamboo young shoots are traditionally consumed by few households. What is the important nutritional value the young shoots provide to us when consumed?
Yeah, it's a good question. So it's a very dense nutrients are there in this. No, I don't have the particular slide, but nutritionally speaking, is one of the richest kind of in terms of proteins, in terms of various kinds of micronutrients and all that. And even bamboo shoots are northeast. They're pickled actually. Even now they actually use it as a pickle kind of a thing. Nutritionally, it's a very rich. I don't have, unfortunately, the slide to show, but I know that these three classes and micronutrients, especially, they are very good in this, and one can people do use this.
Okay, sir. Hope there are no more questions. So, if you have any questions, you can write to Dr. S.N. Prasad. So, on behalf of NV's Indian Institute of Science, I thank Dr. Prasad for sharing his vast knowledge and experience in on bamboos, and also their ecological services, and also the social and economic values for the humankind. So, I thank Prasad sir for accepting our invitation and sharing his knowledge through the NV's webinar, sir. Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you, Bharat, and Dr. Ramchandra also, I think, for providing me this opportunity to talk to you. Thank you.
Thank you. So, dear students, please subscribe to our NV's YouTube channel so that you can see the whatever the webinars we conduct under the Ek Bharat Shresth Bharat initiative, and you will be get notified when you subscribe to our channel. Thank you so much. So we will be coming up with another very interesting webinar in this month, in the third week of the June. So please subscribe to the channel so that you will be get notified. Thank you, one and all.